Hey, Gals, Guys, and Otherwise, this is Jonathan O. Roselion.
And I'm Noah, also known as Polyphonic, and you're listening to Horns and Wings, the podcast where we read through Saga one issue at a time, in painstaking detail.
Excruciating.
This week is Chapter 11.
Yeah, and I'm excited to make some great funny jokes about this issue and not cry, because I'm not.
Yeah.
And I won't.
Yeah.
I'm not and I won't, so let's get into it.
So what's on the cover?
Just
breaks out in tears.
Just a guy, and so we're looking at Bar, and this is such a gorgeous cover. Oh my gosh. Wait, really quick. I want to get into this before it becomes so thoroughly unrelevant. I guess irrelevant is also a word.
Oh, yeah.
But I should have brought up the thing, but there is a man which we've gotten many tweets about and many texts about, and it is, there is a man who has been putting a TV on his head and then leaving old TVs on people's porches in like fucking Virginia or wherever. And he looks so thoroughly like a member of the Robot Kingdom.
It's delightful.
It's fucking great. And so, you know what? I'm glad our viral marketing campaign is finally paying off and getting noticed, because I've been paying this guy thousands of dollars. But you know, we've gotten that big influx of -2 listeners, so it's finally paying off. But yeah, I love that. I feel like that's when I know we've hit a good spot with our fandom, where the second something like this happens, we just get like a dozen different people reaching out to us, being like, "Yo, it's Saga." But yeah, it actually looks. I've seen a lot of Prince Robot comparisons, but it looks dead on for another character that we have not hit yet, and I will not spoil.
Oh yeah,
if you've read ahead.
It's ridiculously accurate, down to the clothes he wears.
Yeah, down to the point that I think it might be like it's hard for me to fathom that it's not intentionally. This isn't a Saga fan doing this. But also, fucking shout out to this guy, because he's just the fucking
if you are
old TVs.
If you are a Saga fan, TV head guy, and you do listen to this podcast, we would love to have you on. It would make my day. You don't need to reveal who you are or anything.
No, yeah. We will go to such great lengths to not reveal your identity. Just, would love to. You are the best kind of what's the word for
mischief maker?
What would be the legal description of Banksy? You're the new Banksy, really.
Oh, viral vandal.
Viral vandal.
Viral vandal. The pumps don't work because the vandals took the handles.
Let's actually get into this cover. This episode goes out to TV Head, the best new cryptid. But we got a gorgeous cover of Bar with his looking at his thread from the I guess rose petals, and it's super floral, and it is such a nice forest green in the back, and this is so thoroughly my aesthetic. I love this cover.
I don't like it because I really don't like having a beautiful piece of artwork of a character I like, who it has been well established has a terminal illness, as the cover of the penultimate issue in an arc.
Yeah, it's not foreboding at all.
That's what I'll have to say about that. No spoilers.
How do you feel? What's your position on floral prints, Noah? I know you're a very aesthetic person. How do you feel? I
prefer
about
floral Michael Jackson, but
God damn it. Leave. So this is the rest of the episode's just gonna be me and not that piece of shit.
Yeah, no, this cover is gorgeous, and it's really interesting to me because it feels different than most Saga covers. I think it's because of the flowers. There's so much more detail to it. Mm-hmm. Usually Saga covers are very minimalist, and this is there's a lot there, and it's really, really it's really beautiful.
Yeah, I cannot fathom the effort put into putting this cover together, because it is so gorgeous. And it makes me really appreciate that she like does this is at least since the Prince Robot cover, this is the most painterly cover that we've gotten.
Oh, absolutely.
And then we get to the fucking.
Yeah. Let's get right into the fucking.
After I think a couple episodes ago, you pointed out the hilarity of the juxtaposition of this gorgeous painting of an old man in flowers, and then the opening splash, which is just a full-on shot of Marko and Ilana totally naked, just fucking each other. I didn't need that. And then I pointed out, when you pointed out that juxtaposition, that it should have been him sticking a thread through the eye of a needle to make it more of a transition.
Yes.
But yeah, we get some couple fucking.
Yeah, so why don't you take us off with this scene, John? I started us last week.
Thanks. So you're welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I just noticed, by the way, I'm surprised I only just noticed this. I can't imagine what was distracting
onto
me.
His horns.
He's holding onto his horns.
Yeah.
She's on top of him. And she has one wing out, which I like as a detail. But yeah, so it cuts to they're going for it. And the voiceover says, yeah, so my mom and dad used to have sex. What, like your parents just willed you into existence? And
I didn't need to think about that, Hazel.
Well, I think that reminded me less of my parents having sex than you doing the Ilana sound of her orgasming.
Oh my god. I just took a sip of water and it's out my nose. Oh my god, this is unpleasant.
Well, now you know how all of us feel.
Oh, this is gonna be a bad podcast. I've got, when water goes through your nose and you have that like feeling in the back of your throat.
Well, then you should just talk continuously for an hour afterwards, because that's how you work through it. So then we get Marko saying that was the best, and then Ilana, terrified, saying, "Did you finish inside me?" And Marko says, "Are you kidding? I thought you told me to finish inside you." I'm going to just read so much of this dialogue because it's so fucking good in this scene. Ilana says, "That was sexy Ilana. She's a crazy person. Sexy Ilana is obsessed with her nipples and uses the word dick unironically. She's not to be trusted." And Marko says, "So you're telling me you didn't enjoy that?" And then Ilana, one of the most Ilana lines there is, "I came like a dump truck, Marko." It's just we should probably be more careful.
How does a dump truck come?
Just it's filled with female ejaculate is the rhetorical question I've chosen to answer.
Yeah, of all the ones that you chose to answer.
It's a world building.
By the way, this podcast is not safe for work.
Oh, by the way, click that explicit tag, Engineer Haley. Yeah, so they have a discussion of, Ilana says they're fugitives and we're wanted dead or extra dead by at least two different armies. But also, Marko points out that they're finally free. And what good is freedom if we can't do what we want? And what greater expression of their love, what greater symbol of this terrifying new peace that you and I have forged than a child? And Ilana says, "A child isn't a symbol, it's a child. It needs applesauce and playpens and an assload of other things we can't provide while we're on the goddamn lamb." God, the dialogue in the scene's so good. And then Marko, very, very, just like, actually kind of has his mother's expression of that, like, just driving the nail into the conversation. He said, "Just to be clear, your exact words to me were, 'Please shoot it in my twat.'" We get a very just like sad, reluctant Ilana saying, "Yeah, I know," and so she says, you know, how would it even work? We don't even know if we can have a child between our races, and what would we even call it? And he says, "I've always liked the name Bar for his son." She says, "Like a tavern, like a soap." And he says, "My father's name is Bar." And she says, "Oh, and I love it," with the most unconvincing smile, terrified smile I've ever seen. And the voiceover kicks in. "In that moment, my mother prayed with all of her might that their firstborn would be a girl. Some dreams really do come true." And a gorgeous splash that is actually in the opening title card to this very podcast. If you watch the YouTube version, I altered it a bit, but it's in there. And that's the end of that. Again, we're starting with a flashback here. A very satisfying flashback.
Yeah. I love all these flashbacks. I love the like learning about the character's past. I also like this flashback a lot because it's like it's not a flash way back. Like it's still pretty recent, and that's evidence because Ilana's wearing her iconic coat.
Yeah.
Like her poncho coat thing that she wears on the first cover.
Yeah, and they mentioned that they're on Cleve right now. So they are on the planet that, so I guess they're there for at least 9 months, or exactly 9 months, I guess.
Yeah.
But also I just want to point out that like literally every issue in this arc, this volume, has started with either a flashback or a dream sequence, which is an interesting choice. I wonder if that's going to persist. Spoiler alert, probably.
Also, I mean, like to talk about the elephant in the room. It's just it's good sex. They Fiona Staples draws good sex. Brian K. Vaughan writes good dialogue. It's all very compelling and all very believable as a relationship.
Which, you know what, sticking with our tradition of coming up with more words than just fucking to describe the sex, I'm going to go ahead and slap the label, this is just some baby making right here.
It quite literally is some baby making.
Yeah, they're doing some baby making on this one.
Also, the acting, you mentioned it in the summary, but the acting by Ilana on the "oh, and I love it" is so good.
It's her expression when she said, "Did you finish inside me?" and their whole argument. I love, she's giving a great mid angry statement face on the bottom of the third page where she said a child isn't a symbol, it's a child. Fucking Marko's face of just like, "Oh really?" is so fucking good. I love their dynamic so thoroughly. They are such a great couple. I feel like in so many, it's great because it's not like they're not the perfect couple, and it's not like they have zero issues or anything, and that it's a match made in heaven. But there's like, you actually understand the dynamics of their relationship, and you see the strengths, specifically really good sex, and you see the weaknesses, and you see the disagreements and everything, and it's just a real ass relationship. And I feel like this comic should get all the credit in the world for having such a great portrayal of a relationship, and it is such a solid foundation for the rest of this comic.
I agree. Agreed on all fronts.
What else?
I just need to reiterate how beautiful that last panel is with them like looking out over the city. Like I've been there in that scenario, just not looking out over Cleve, looking out over Vancouver, and it's wonderful, right?
Yeah.
Just looking out across the city at night.
Fun fact, a little bit of a tangent, but for 4th of July this year, we wanted to avoid the crowds and stuff because where I'm in St. Louis, and they do fireworks under the St. Louis Arch, and it's awesome. But this year, we live in like a 9-story building, and I was like, let's just go up the fire escape to the top floor, and we got this gorgeous shot of like everywhere in the city doing fireworks, just like the whole skyline. It was just, you get to see all of St. Louis and all of the fireworks, and it was gorgeous. And that made me want to do some baby making too. So I totally relate, and I get what's going on here. And also, I just realized they're in a tent on a rooftop, which is a cool little hiding spot.
Yeah, that's not the only tent that was pitched in this scene. Hey!
Last thing I want to bring up about this scene, which I find interesting, is that they bring up the fact that they don't know if they can reproduce.
Conceive.
And that has consistently brought up a lot of questions for me, which I'm interested to see if we will get any answers on, because the idea of they don't even know if they can have a baby together is a product of one of two things, and it's either no one ever trying before, or trying and failing or whatever, it being attempted, or that it has been a thing, but the propaganda has been so thorough on both sides, each side has been made so inhuman that they have introduced the idea of you can't even conceive with them. It's like, bestiality or something, where it's just this disgusting, impossible thing. But it makes me wonder if there was ever a time before this war, and if there was ever peace between these species, where this had to have, look at Sextillion, and they clearly have no real issues with interspecies mingling with the rest of the galaxy. So it makes me wonder if there was ever peace between this, because it's a moon and a planet, you would imagine, but I want to know more about this world, and hopefully one day perhaps we'll learn it. Even if we don't, I'll be satisfied, but it's interesting. It's an interesting concept.
I agree. I like, my headcanon tends to be the latter, that I don't think Marko and Ilana are the first people to do this. I think it's been propaganded out and probably hunted down and murdered, like they are currently trying to be. that sentence really got grammatically derailed. I lost the subject.
Went off the dragon train rails. Do we want to dive into this next scene then?
Yeah. So in true Saga fashion, we have great Hazel transition. I love this one, actually. We get the some dreams come true. That's such a nice thought. Cut to, that said, most dreams are weird as shit. We see Isabel and Ilana, and Isabel is saying, the giant evil space fetus just shot black goo from its eyes. And so we cut right back to where we left off with the rocket ship tree is being attacked, or at least almost being attacked by the time suck, the giant space fetus. We get this gorgeous shot of the maw of this thing with the rocket ship tree just tiny in comparison, and it says it's sucking them back in. Clara asks Isabel, Ghoul, where is your vessel's armory? And Isabel says the ship doesn't have an armory. And then we see Isabel looking out the window, and we see the Onion ship drifting by with a huge gash in it. She says, I realized that she feels bad, feels sympathy for these people. And she says, I realized that they were probably just more asshole freelancers trying to off you guys, but seriously, outer space is the worst place to eat it. I hope they go fast is all. And we see Lion Cat. And then we cut right to the action. Yeah. We've got a crazy look on the Will's face. He's kind of panicked, but has his eye on the prize, jumps down, leaps out into the goddamn vacuum of space towards Lion Cat, grabs Lion Cat as they're kind of, everything's starting to turn blue and he's starting to freeze, grabs his lance, lances himself back into the Onion ship, retracts the lance. In case you forgot, this lance is extendable. Retracts the lance, as soon as he gets inside, Gwendolyn casts a spell in blue that says "Fair me," which I'm gonna guess means something like "close," but we do have a blue translator here.
Well, we'll get to that.
And then the will says "Go high speed." And should we keep going? The scenes are a little blurred at this point.
I'm going to say cut it at the next panel of the next page.
Yeah. So he says "Go high speed," and then we see the onion ship with blue covering its gash, just zooming right out of there while the rocket ship tree is still being sucked into the maw of the time suck.
Yeah, so we are in the action right now.
And it is
fucking crazy.
It is good action.
And he grabbed Lion Cat. Noah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. He was out in space and the will grabbed him.
And and this is something that I love about the out in space is just the kind of like tinges of blue on everything of like an icy blue. Like it's kind of, it reminds me kind of that scene in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, that's
but
what
I'm pretty sure this was done before that.
Which is an interesting because it's like it almost looks like a blue light, but there's nothing that's especially giving off a blue light.
Yeah.
So it's very much a sort of mood lighting, and especially with the when you look at the hilt of the lance, it definitely looks like it has some like a freezing pattern on it.
Well, even when you see Lion Cat, when the will is like in space jumping towards Lion Cat, you can see the tail is kind of like the Lion Cat, her tail and legs are kind of like icy.
Yeah. Oh man. I hope Lion Cat's all right. Fucking quick thinking from the will.
The action of this scene is so cool, and the way you also still get the like we were talking about at the end of last week, the silence of space. Like this whole episode is this whole little action sequence is so silent, and then as soon as you're inside, we get Gwendolyn yelling her blue.
Which you are correct. It translates to close, Fermi.
That's because I speak French.
There you go. And also, she's with her nails. She's scratching with 3 fingers into her cheek.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that.
Which is such a cool. I love this that we've gotten to the point where it's like we don't need that explanation anymore. We know enough about how things work in this universe that that has to be an ingredient for the spell.
Yeah.
And so that's such a cool little touch. But yeah, I love, while we're talking about this scene, I love one of my favorite action shots, which is comparable to Prince Robot flipping the table in that issue 4 or whatever. I love the will sort of doing almost like that superhero landing pose where he's about to launch himself out of the ship. And he strikes such a rad pose, and his cape looks so fucking cool. And then it gives it like such a nice, we have those 2 sort of keyframes of animation there of the wind up of him getting ready to jump and then him sort of rocketing himself outside of the ship. It's such good action here.
I love too when he has Lion Cat and he extends his lance towards it, like you can see him drifting and the lance extending. And it's just so cool.
And like I love the lance is a bit more like wobbly. Like it's more of an S shape, and I like the idea that he put a bit of English on it to make it do that sort of arch into the floor over top of the gash in the ship, and it's a cool little touch. And also, you know what, to talk about the part right before this that you covered with the rocket ship tree situation.
Yeah.
That fucking the giant evil space fetus just shot black goo from its eyes. Why do we do a whole hour episode on that when that could have just summed up the last issue?
Yeah, that just summed up last issue, yeah.
That's such a good recently on in case you forgot what happened. Just saying the absurdity of it.
Yeah.
Also, that gaping maw of the time suck is terrifying.
Yeah, I love. Well, and in the last panel, when the onion ship is flying away, you can see the maw of the time suck, and it almost just looks like background. Like you don't even realize what it is at first.
Yeah, the time suck it's like a living black hole, which is so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Love that. Oh, and by the way, really quick shout out. I should have done this a couple issues ago, but we are now getting proper translations thanks to, it was Antonio S., I believe, if I wrote that down somewhere. Yes, and Antonio S. Sent us a link to a website that has all of the translations for the blue Esperanto. And I appreciate that a lot. It makes my job a lot easier. So shout out to you. This episode also goes out to you. You're going to share the credit with TV Head. Thank you.
Yeah. And one more thought before we move on. Just as soon as the will gets inside, he looks so sickly.
Yeah.
Like he looks like defeated and sickly.
Yeah, he has the shadows under his eyes, which, you know, kind of makes sense if you're just in space.
Yeah. You get a powerful, fun scene now.
Yeah, yay. So, which, by the way, I'm already feeling like shaky and crappy because I realized we were recording a couple episodes in a row and I forgot to eat anytime recently. So that should really just heighten my emotionalness.
Your emotionalness.
Yeah.
I prefer to keep my emotionalness unemotional for one.
But yeah, so we leave off from, we have a nice little transition of, we see the onion ship going high speed and taking off from this whole situation. Very smart move on their part. And the rocket ship tree cannot escape. It's not going fast enough. And we have, and should be pointed out really quick from the last scene when Marko and Clara are headed down to the furnace room to try to boost the ship a bit. We have Bar saying, "Son, before you go," and Marko interrupts him saying, "Later, Pop."
Yeah.
And they run downstairs. So this is Marko and Clara running downstairs saying that we have to figure out how to get out of here. And Clara says, "You already have a way out of here," and holds up the crash helm and says, for him to take the two helmets and use them to get him and his child off of the ship. And that, you know, that's their whole purpose as his parents, is to make sure he survives this. And so use the crash helms, and Marko says, "Thank you, I will," and tosses the helms into the fire, the furnace of the ship, and the fire turns blue. And Clara says, "What the hell are you?" And he says, "Giving us a boost. If we burn off all this exotic matter, we might be able to generate enough power to break free, unless we break apart first," says Clara, and cut back to the main room of the ship. And the glass is starting to shatter on the ship, and the whole ship is starting to crumble. And Bar says, "They did it. Marko and Clara got us back on the move." Isabel points out that the speed that the rocket ship was never designed to go. And Bar rolls up his sleeves and says, "That's all right. I'll hold us together." And Ilana says, "With what?" He says, "In blue," he says, "a little extra stitching." And these golden threads shoot out of his fingers.
My God.
And make this sort of spider web around the whole ship, holding it together with this magic thread. And Ilana says, "Bar, be careful, your heart," and he interrupts her, "is down in the engine room. I was never a great father to that boy, but I was always loyal to his mother. That probably counts for something, right?" And the ship starts to stabilize, and they start to be able to make it out of there, tangled in this gold thread as they leave, as the light is blue behind the rocket ship for the first time, as they blast away from the time suck. Isabel says, "We're home free." And then Bar collapses, the threads disappear. Ilana runs over to him. Bar sees Hazel and says, God, will you look at those peepers? You get to be my age and you think you've seen it all, but then the clouds erase and then he kind of just fades away. And Ilana says, "Bar," and he's unresponsive. He's just staring forward.
Fuck me,
and
right
it's
up,
not
fam.
fucking sad at all. I just want to say, like, what a fucking... So this
Jesus.
On this reread, this 100% made me cry. because it is such a fucking beautiful way to go.
Yeah.
Like I know this book can be very cruel and very violent, but just bar using magic to hold the ship together in this gorgeous display, and using the last of his power to do it is just such a great send off for a character, and it's so beautiful. And it made me really sad. He was such a beautiful character. He was beautiful like his son. And he's not talking about looks.
I just wish that they had given my boy Faro to send off this beautiful.
we cut out. Well, the next scene, if you want me to spoil it, is McHenry showing up on her ship
and saving Fard.
Saving Fard. With her jumping out of the ship and grabbing Fard and using the lance to get back in.
But so seriously, the thing that I want to talk about in this scene before we get to the sad stuff is the more you find out about the rocket ship tree, the fucking cooler it gets. It has a goddamn furnace room that you chop wood from the rocket ship tree to feed it to itself. Like, you don't,
so fucking cool.
You don't see spaceships visualized like this, and in a world with magic, it's such a cool, like, way of doing a spaceship.
Yeah. We asked that question of what location would you most want to visit a couple weeks ago, and by far, so many responses have been the rocket ship tree.
Yeah,
justifiably so.
Well, cool. And it's such a like good use of, and this is, we talked about the other day too. Staples and Vaughn are so good at using scenery to build mood and like creating scenery that works as a background but also naturally works in the story. Like the fact that in this desperate moment, like, literally this conversation is happening in front of raging flames, and it has this like high intensity, the mood of everything is created by this furnace room, and when things are okay or start to get better, it literally turns blue and cools down. It's so cool.
It is. I love the choices of what they make with all of their sort of alien or otherworldly objects, and the influences they use and the ways they tie that back into reality. A rocket ship tree is such an evocative concept, and it automatically brings in so many things you associate with it that are just so pleasing and so pitch perfect for the environment that they're creating. Whereas just like everyone has like such a specific reaction to the idea of treehouses. And it is such a like adventurous sort of like ideal little escape and stuff like that. And like I don't know anyone that, you know, didn't want to live in a fucking treehouse at some point. Like
exactly.
It's so cool, and that sort of childlike sense of wonder that is incorporated into all of this, and that whole organic feeling. And also it's almost like you give this, because the ship is a living thing, and so it almost gives it this sort of like, what is that called? The Sanctum Sanctorum, the Doctor Strange's mansion, where it's just like this sort of house of wonders where anything is sort of possible in it, and it feels like it has its own personality.
What it makes me think of is actually what it makes me think of is the TARDIS.
Yeah. It's literally, they just made like a treehouse TARDIS, and it is such a fucking great concept.
Well, and I mean, just like to kind of go onwards, like the rocket ship tree, the symbolism too of this living treehouse kind of paragon of innocence, and Bar dying, saving everybody by weaving this together. When we've seen the first way that we show him kind of asserted as a caring fatherly figure is by weaving clothes, right?
Yeah.
So it's, you have this real beautiful kind of thematic conclusion to Bar's arc.
Yeah.
With him weaving together this living home to save his family from the giant evil space fetus.
Yeah, he's literally holding his family together, which has so many implications of, like, with his death, like, what the hell is going to happen to this family?
Yeah.
Because, like, knowing what we know about Clara and knowing what we know about Marko and how thoroughly they do not get along, like, I cannot imagine how much of the heavy lifting he did in terms of keeping them a cohesive family.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things that this hit me so hard. The older I get and the more disillusioned I get, the more affected I become by just acts of good and sacrifice and stuff like that. That's why, like, I've seen Casablanca a million times, but, like, every time I see it, it hits me even harder because it's just like, oh, this person's doing a sincerely good thing, and that is so thoroughly what the world needs and has such little of, and it affects me so much. And so this one really, just seeing a character that is such a sincerely good person go out in such a powerful and meaningful way, just doing this act of good and self-sacrifice, just hit me so damn hard.
The feels of this issue, your heart is down in the engine room.
Oh my
god. And then would you look at those peepers, like you get to my age and you think you've seen it all. It's so beautiful and just such a, like, it's really incredible because we've known Bar for 4 issues now. Yeah. And, like, sparingly, really 3 issues, because one of those issues was entirely the will.
Yeah.
And like we've known him as one subplot for 3 issues, and the way it rattles you when he dies. Or we're assuming he's dead. Spoiler alert.
He looks very dead. But yeah, no, and then you get that, like, just a little extra, like, touch of tragedy that he says, like, this sort of nonsense sentence. Yeah. Or one that only he would understand, almost like a Rosebud sentence that is cut off by his death. And it's tragic.
It really actually makes me think. I mean, contextually, it's very different. But what I thought of when I read but then the clouds race is like tears in rain.
Yeah, definitely. He's just recognizing, like, the beauty of the universe that is disappearing before his eyes.
It's totally, like, in the same vein of the like, I watched C-beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. Like, oh, God.
It's beautiful. Good send-off to Bar.
And now we cut to some good news.
Oh, tell me that good news, Noah. I need it.
So we cut to the Onion ship, where Gwendolyn is cradling a slave girl, and the Will asks if she's dead. But Gwendolyn says she thinks she'll live, and the Will says she'd better, or I let Lion Cat do what she wants to you. Lion Cat's alive. The Will saved Lion Cat.
Very pissed off too.
Yeah. Oh, this is a short one. Oh
yeah.
And the Will says the only reason he hasn't is she was right. Marko is out there. And he says that even though his instruments came up empty, he saw the rocket ship with his own 2 eyes. Should I just kind of keep going from here, or should we?
Go hit up until we hit the flashback.
Okay, until we hit the flashback. Cool. Mm-hmm. So then on that transition, we cut to said rocket ship, and Clara and Marko are leaving the engine room, kind of fighting a little bit, and they come up and they see And we get this shot from Marko's perspective, another bit of a fourth wall break, walking in on Ilana on the ground trying to resuscitate Bar, who has fallen and is clearly
Can't get up.
yeah. and is clearly dead now. Clara runs to him, and Ilana announces that he's dead, and then we just see Marko's face.
Yeah, which is like a just bizarrely blank, emotionless face. So first of all, fucking Lion Cat is still with us. Thank the gods.
You really sold that. You really sold that last episode.
I sold it hard. Just because I was recalling so thoroughly the emotions I had. That was the first death that really, really, really hit me in this.
That was I remember, and I think Bar dying didn't hit me as much because I was reading so furiously to see if Lion Cat survived on my first read. Like, because I was reading a trade copy.
Yeah, that was honestly like that whole Lion Cat thing, which, I would have been reading the trade too. It's one of those things where I was just like, it kind of made me question if I wanted to keep going, because I was like, oh, this is going to be a fucking cruel book, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, this thing is not going to give a fuck. But there are those moments of mercy mixed in there. Definitely not always. It very much becomes a very cruel book when it wants to be, but it's also a fucking beautiful book. And I think the Bar thing portrays that perfectly. But yeah, I love Lion Cat is so thoroughly pissed off throughout the scene.
Yeah.
And just is giving the biggest fuck you eyes to Gwendolyn for getting them into this shit and shooting that rocket. And yeah, I'm so happy. I'm just so happy and so sad, and I'm feeling all the emotions right now. This is a fucking roller coaster.
The scene, it's so powerful and such a powerful choice to do like the walking in on Bar from Marko's perspective.
Yeah.
Like, I just think I feel like this whole thing really hit me rereading this too, as like I'm a bit older than I was when I first read Saga, and like it really puts you in the position of like walking in and seeing your dad dead, and it's really, you can really empathize, and it's really rattling.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's by far the most powerful perspective they could have put us in of all these characters that we've related to. I'm sure Clara's going through some horrible shit right now, but like we just care so thoroughly for Marko and his well-being that this is like very rough to be in his perspective.
Yeah. And then to just cut to this blank face that he has.
Which is sort of just perplexing.
Yeah.
Where he seems so thoroughly unfazed. And then do we want to see this next scene of what he's thinking about?
Yeah, I think we should describe what happens in the scene, and then we will translate the blue after.
Yeah, and so we are apparently back on. It's Wreath. Yeah, that's the yellow sky. So we do a match cut of young Marko's face, angry and crying, and this whole scene is in blue, is in Esperanto, so the normal reader doesn't know what the fuck's going on. And we pull back to see Marko is yelling at his father, and he looks maybe a couple years older than from the flashback that we saw originally, probably around the same age. And we also see a giant grasshopper with a saddle on it.
And a star on it.
Yep. And then, of course, Marko's knee is all scratched up, so it seems like he's fallen off this grasshopper. And so he's whining at his dad, and his dad seems to say something very dad-like and seemingly profound, at least to him. And Marko has that sort of reluctant, okay, I'll try again look. And so Bar cheers him on as he gets back on the grasshopper. And then we see Marko holding on to the antennae of the grasshopper. It says Repeata, which I'm guessing is, fast or faster. And then we see the grasshopper take off into the sky. and Bar watches excitedly below, and Marko just looks exhilarated as he flies through the sky on this helicopter, this grasshopper, close enough. And yeah, and it's just this little flashback plopped in the middle of the scene. And you want me to we have like a page and a half. You want me to just wrap up?
No, I want to talk about this and then we can wrap up.
Okay. So yeah, we get an interesting, which I will say, which I actually don't think, an interesting little fact about Noah, as far as I know still, but Noah has yet to catch up on the last, like, 3 issues or something?
Yeah. I when we started this, I hadn't caught up, and I've held off from catching up, but I probably am not gonna hold off for much longer.
Yeah, we've discussed before. We very much want you to record your live reaction to these last few issues. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the thing is that the third omnibus has come out now, and I really want to buy it because I really like these books, and I want the omnibuy.
Sure.
But I also will not be able to buy it and not read it.
Right, yeah. So yeah, just if you get around to reading it, I would love for you to just take, like, even if it's for a minute long or something, just give us like a voice memo of
some thoughts. Yeah.
So you're just what you're going through, what you're feeling.
Alrighty.
But I will say, to avoid spoiling, but just something to keep in mind, that this sort of structure of a significant thing happening and then a relevant flashback that sort of twists the knife a bit, and just like sort of in the middle of the scene and then cut back to it is something we see in very recent issues. Well, not fucking recent anymore because it's been on hiatus for 15 years. But it's a nice little storytelling technique of just a big old fuck you emotionally, of here's an emotionally bonkers scene, and then here's some nostalgia for you to really just make you feel all the emotions. And I think it's just extremely effective. And I don't especially like, I don't remember seeing this in a lot of stories. Generally, I think that we see, I know in a lot of things, like, you know, during the climax or whatever, we'll have a flashback to an earlier scene we've already seen in the story to remind you of how much someone means to someone else or something. But I think it's so interesting that we go almost, it seems like a non sequitur in a way of this flashback. And it's like, it just happens. We're seeing the first thought that happens to pop into Marko's head when he sees this. And it's really affecting.
Yeah, it's super. It's a really just kind of fascinating thing because it like you said, it drives the knife home, and it also just reveals so much about character, and it makes me question, like in this case, like if I found out my father had died, what is the first thought that comes to my mind?
Yeah.
What is the first memory, right?
Yeah.
And it's really like, it's a heavy thing to think about.
Yeah, and if you thought that was heavy, just wait till you hear the fucking translation of these pages.
Oh, okay. Oh God,
because it actually
hit me with this.
This is where you're actually going to get some meaningful layers from this podcast to the events of this comic. So we start out. It's Marko crying, and he says, "I hate this," and then he points. It's him pointing at Bar, and he says, "And I hate you too."
Oh, God.
After falling off of the grasshopper. And Bar says, "Ouch, I will pretend you did not say that, pal." And Marko says, "I can't do it. I'm not good enough." And Bar, giving his profound father speech, says, "Marko, listen very carefully. You have to be brave before you can be good." And then Marko says, "Okay, but I will just try one more time." Bar says, "That's my boy." And then Marko, riding the grasshopper, says, "Go, quickly, jump." And then he shouts to his father, "I did it, father, I did." and then cut back.
Oh my god. Oh my! Someone's cutting onions in the next room.
Oh man, but this is
oh my god.
I like how this is just like, hey, for all of you who went out of your way to discover what this is, it's the first thought that pops into Marco's mind is the time he said he hates his father.
Oh my god.
And that he just gave him a super profound lesson about being good, which is probably the seed that was planted that makes Marko good now.
The relevance of you need to be brave before, like, Marko needs to be brave now.
Yep. Yeah, and then we get that cut back to how would you describe the change in Marko's expression here? Because it's not quite emotionless anymore.
No, it's like super kind of, it's a super subtle change, and he just looks like kind of almost like I don't even know how to describe it, like sad but also kind of determined at the same time.
Yeah, this is
just like kind of melancholy.
Yeah, it's like almost like a melancholy, determined nostalgia that's sort of washing over his face, and it's almost like each feature is displaying a different. Because I'm trying to figure out how Fiona did this, and it feels like if you cover up different parts of his face, then it kind of gives him different emotions.
Yeah. Oh, you're totally right. So I'm doing this. So if you just see his mouth is like set and determined. Mm-hmm. If you just see his eyes, they're like really, really kind of sad.
Yeah.
And heartbroken. And I think it's mostly the combination of those, but I think his ears might do a bit too.
Yeah. Or it's sort of, he has the almost droopy dog ears.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it is so many powerful choices going into the emotions of this book. It's amazing that such a usually unsubtle book can be so amazingly subtle.
Yeah.
They really know when to go over the top.
Well, and even going into the next scene. So the next scene, Ilana reaches out to comfort Marko, and Marko just says, "Would you please excuse us?" And Isabel says, "Right now he just needs to be with his people." And you see like a fucking Renaissance painting, like Clara is holding bar and Marco's put his hand on her back and they're all looking over, and the devastation on Clara's face there is incredible, especially because it's not a close-up. Like, this is a wide shot, but you just get in her face and her body language just so much kind of utter despair.
And please read all of the voiceover here.
That's what I was gonna do to bring us home here. Mm-hmm. The next morning, they cremated my grandfather in the belly of our ship. I still have a scrap of the outfit he made for me. These days, I use it as a bookmark. And the use it as a bookmark is set over our closing splash is space, the rocket ship tree from behind. Space is these beautiful, soft color palettes, and they're just kind of headed towards an uncertain future. Mm-hmm. It feels like it could be the end of an arc. Spoiler alert, I cried twice during this issue, and these days I use it as a bookmark is the second part, because again, it's so I love and I don't cry easily in things. More and more so as I get older and more of a wimp. Crying's good. Crying's healthy. And I think that's just because I'm caring more about things. Yeah. Don't you push that toxic masculinity. Crying does not make you a wimp. We're not about that here on Horns and Wings.
You're a fucking wimp if you didn't cry at this shit.
Yeah, you little bitch. What, you didn't cry? Didn't shed a single fucking tear when Bar died?
Cry at the death of the fucking patriarch of this goddamn family, you little shit.
Oh, this is how we cope.
It really is. But yeah, I love this is again the shot of space is probably my favorite in the series so far, and I used it as the opening shot on the original Saga video we did on Make Stuff. But it is so gorgeous, and just the whole like these days I use it as a bookmark, and all of these little details throughout this scene, like Bar's last words and Marco's reaction, and this, like, none of them are super obvious and are in a way almost ambiguous, and it really just does feel like it's conveying just the flood of irrational emotions going through your head when you're coping with a loss, and it's so beautiful.
It's each line just feels so imbued with meaning, but you don't fully understand what the meaning is.
Yeah, which again represents the death of a person so well.
Like even I want to reread this narration, and I want to do an exercise where try to wipe the context away from it and just listen to this as like a poem.
Yeah.
Just like it's such a brilliant self-contained story.
Yeah.
The next morning they cremated my grandfather in the belly of our ship. I still have a scrap of the outfit he made me. These days I use it as a bookmark. Like, it's such a little self-contained story.
Yeah. And I know you're talking last episode about how this is where, like, last issues where it really, it became like hit a new level.
Yeah.
And this is absolutely like this. At the end of this issue, I was like, oh, this is fucking like straight up art. Like, this is so special, and this is such a, because I feel like there's always the excitement, and there's always the attachment, and that sort of like clinging to the story and being enthralled in the story, but it never really hit me emotionally, especially to the point of crying before this.
Yeah.
And it felt, it's a weird, because it feels, in a way, in terms of the ambiguity, it feels like the least profound, especially when you can't read the blue. It feels like one of the least profound parts, because it's so hard to decipher. But this is where it really hit me, like, oh, this is a very profound, beautiful work of art, and I fucking love it.
I think this is the one, and I think this is really, really cool, and it's really ballsy by Brian K. Vaughan too, where up until this point, like, nearly every issue has ended on a really good cliffhanger, and this just ends on a powerful statement, and this leaves you, all of the others are, I need to keep reading because I need to know what happens, whereas this just ends on, I need to keep reading because this is so goddamn good.
Yeah, it's just it stops giving a shit about the next week on Saga, and it's just like, we're gonna do such a beautiful send off to this character and make it really meaningful. And I think I'm sure, like, my father's been having health issues lately, and I'm sure there are thousands of people that have read this that have lost their fathers, and I'm sure this was a very important thing to get right. And this is a thing to nail if they're gonna do it, and they nailed it. It's fucking great. And so I'm really happy that we get to make a bunch of dick jokes about this book.
Yeah, should we go to? Well, and I mean, even like on that, think of where we started this issue.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
like we started this issue with a
baby making.
Just. Yeah, intensely graphic, which, I mean, also there's something thematic there.
Oh, yeah.
But we start with just like this intense, raw, graphic sex scene with the line, "Please shoot it into my twat," uttered, and then by the end, in just a handful of pages, we're bawling at the loss of a father figure that we barely knew.
No, we go from bawling to bawling.
Oh my god.
Well, we're close up shop. That's the end of the series. You're welcome, and forgive me.
Saga, from bawling to bawling.
Oh, we got our fucking title in. I was worried because we had such an obvious title from We Hardly Knew Ye for the last episode. I was like, boy, what's this one gonna be? And then we achieved that art that Saga has also achieved in this issue. Hey, what's your favorite moment in this thing?
All of it? None of it? I think my favorite moment is the panel where Ilana says your heart, and Bar says is down in the engine room.
Yeah.
And he's weaving these webs all around, and you're like, at this moment, you're completely aware that he's going to die doing this. And it's just like the lighting, the colors are so beautiful, and it's so vivid and otherworldly, but such a raw, like real human moment of your heart is down in the engine room. Just incredible. Yeah. Absolutely incredible.
Literally that exact same panel is my favorite moment too. We've been 2 for 2 these last couple episodes.
Yeah.
But or I guess we've been 2 for 11, but still. Yeah, this feels like a moment that like go ahead.
Honorable mention to will you look at those peepers?
Yeah, that's great.
And like the eye lines that Fiona Staples draws so well, where that and the next scene Hazel is like looking directly at Bar.
Yeah. That's so great. But yeah, the whole him holding the ship together, honestly, like to compare again to Avengers Endgame, like this feels like there are so many moments, just individual moments in this book that feels like the emotional climax of like a whole franchise. Like
this moment feels like I can't carry it, Mr. Frodo, but I can carry you.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's just fucking sprinkled throughout this book. This is this is why I've been saying for years now, Saga is the fucking modern Lord of the Rings, 100% in my mind.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, it's a good shit. Hey, you want to hear some cool music?
Always.
All right, let's play that. Noah, question of the week. What do we got for the people?
Can I have a hug?
Oh, I fucking feel that one.
I mean, there's a real like if we want to, how heavy do we want to go?
You know what? Here, I've actually been thinking a lot about like just the curve of the extremity of questions that we want to ask, just because we're gonna get into some fucking deep shit with this series.
Yeah. There's gonna be some. Oh, there's some. God damn, there's some heavy shit coming, guys. This is your first dose of the real depth and heaviness of Saga, because there are some just straight gut punch moments coming.
Yeah, which again, if someone's started up the Facebook group, the Horns and Wings, the Saga consolatory
support group,
then fucking go hit that up. But please, no spoilers in that group, because this is already gonna be hard enough to cope with. Yeah. So, can I have a hug? Is that your question of the week?
I mean,
or did you want to go?
How heavy do we want to go?
Wait, is how heavy do you want to go? The question of the week.
Well, just
throw it out there.
Cause like,
what do you got?
Maybe not even exactly the scenario, but what is a memory of a parent that just really sticks out in your mind for you? What's a memory of one of your parents or grandparents or even older siblings?
Don't make
just
it fucking longer, Noah. You and your fucking question bullshit. You had a great, perfect, straightforward question. Don't fucking bring extended family into this, you piece of shit.
What about a third cousin?
If you could just name one for every branch of the
What's
tree.
What's a memory of someone who helped raise you?
I like it. That's a little more inclusive. I appreciate it. And you know what? I'm gonna go a little abstract on this one. Give people a bit of a writing exercise. What do you think the end to his "but then the clouds race the" sentence is?
Oh, that'd be nice.
So finish that sentence. But then the clouds race the blank. The final thoughts going through his head.
And what about song of the week? There's really only one, right?
Oh shit! I just remembered a thing that I was gonna reference really quick that I set up and then I didn't.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead and give us your song of the week.
It's "Cats in the Cradle."
Yeah, no, that was literally when I went out of my way to go back and say that he was gonna tell Marko that he's dying, and then Marco's like, hold that thought.
Yeah.
It is such a cat's in the cradle moment.
Yeah.
And it also reminded me of, do you remember, I think it was like first or second episode of Game of Thrones, there's the
oh, we'll talk about your mother when I get back.
Yeah, Ned to Jon Snow, just foreboding as fuck. Like, you've said the thing, so therefore it can never happen. But I fucking predicted the cat's in the cradle, so I'm going to give an alternate. I don't know. I had an alternate way of saying alternate there. I'm going to give an alternate option there. Father and Son by Cat Stevens, which I'm pretty sure is the second time I've referenced that song on this fucking podcast. But go listen to just the last couple of lines from that one, and within the context of this issue, and fucking you're gonna go from bawling to bawling in a fucking heartbeat. And boy, this is a fucking rough one. We got the question, we got the favorite moment, we got the thing. We're wrapping it up. We're done. We did it. This is gonna be a little bit longer, but it's worth it because I'm coping. Hey Noah.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at WatchPolyphonic, and I actually want to give a really big shout out to, I've been asking for weeks. For the first time, someone actually tweeted me about Saga.
Oh.
Want to give a big shout out to Megan, 11, Megan 16, or maybe Megan, Maegan, probably Megan. Cool
What
spelling.
a fucking shout out.
But she said that my choice of You Make My Dreams Come True playing over Ilana and Marko's Meet Cute gives her Guardians of the Galaxy vibes, and that's great. I totally like that. Basically, I just want to shout out, talk to me about Saga on Twitter at WatchPolyphonic, and go watch my YouTube channel at WatchPolyphonic. There's some stuff coming out. There's some cool stuff. There's always some cool stuff.
Yeah.
And what about you, John?
I will say,
in nice. Oh
no! Go ahead, please, go ahead with that transition.
I was gonna say, in a nice, succinct fashion, why don't you tell us where we can find you?
No. So I was gonna say, just while it's remotely adjacent to what you're talking about, of the lesser of all the evils of there being an adaptation of Saga, I would not mind James Gunn being involved in some capacity. I think tonally that'd be pretty rad. But still, don't fucking do it. You can find me on Twitter at Jonathan Oscar, JOHNATHOS. Oh boy, I can't spell my fucking name. Go look it up. Listen to all the other episodes.
Just spell Jonathan wrong, and that's how you find him.
Just spell Jonathan wrong, and then I'll be apparently the fucking fourth person down, as I discovered while making a new.
Spell it Jonathan like it's a marathon. Yeah. Like you need to do a bunch of Johns.
And then also
Bawling.
You know what? I'm not even gonna plug fucking make stuff. Please go follow Wash Polyphonic on Twitter. We're gonna have a lot of really great top tier content on there. So stay tuned to that. And of course, go subscribe and leave a review. It helps so much. And as always, big massive thank you to Fiona Staples, Brian K. Vaughan, Phonographics, and Image Comics for making me cry forever. I really appreciate that. Y'all are the best. And oh boy, how are we sending this one off?
All right. You ready for some feels?
Oh no. Go ahead.
All right, guys. Just remember, you've got to be brave before you can be good.
And am I shitting? Okay, bye.
You bastard.